Chapter 15 is creating a vision and motivating a change to evidence-based practice. We discussed the reasons that EBP doesn't get implemented. Hospitals are often short-staffed, there's cost reduction measures in place, and we're taking care of heavy patient loads. Individual team and organizational changes are often complex and lengthy processes. Cultures take years to change, and leaders get frustrated if things aren't moving fast in a positive direction. According to Gibbons in your text, change efforts fail about 50% of the time, and culture change efforts have an average success rate of 19%. But we still want to shoot for the moon. The statistics I mentioned previously are not encouraging. However, there are general principles at the individual team and organizational levels that will expedite the change process when an exciting vision is created and a well thought out strategic plan is carefully executed. Organizational change theories are conceptual ideas rather than evidence-based practice, and organizational change initiatives fail because leaders and teams lose sight of the vision, get steeped in challenging barriers, and forget the stages of change that are a normal part of the process and abandon the initiative too early. Critical principles and steps for implementing change in individuals, teams, and organizations is important and is discussed in Chapter 15. There's an emphasis on 4 unique models of organizational change useful for guiding successful change efforts in healthcare institutions. It's imperative to consider the structure, culture, and environment when designing strategy for change within a system, but the elements listed on the slide help bring change to fruition. We'll talk about each of these in the next slides. We've discussed vision before, but it is an essential element for change processes at any level. A clear vision, crystal clear and exciting vision of the desired outcome is needed to engage in change, to keep people excited, and to outline a plan for implementing success strategies. Your textbook talks about character building experiences, otherwise known as failures, and this crystal clear, exciting vision or dream is generally what keeps people going. Your textbook on page 429 talks about the fact that Dr. Robert Jarvik, who designed the world's first artificial heart, was denied entry into medical school 3 times. And it talks about Walt Disney and others who had a vision and a dream and were given these character building experiences and still persisted. It really is that vision that moves people forward. It's important that it's a shared vision with the team, and anytime you can have the vision created by all members of the team, you will get additional buy-in from everybody on the team. A belief in one's own ability to accomplish the vision is another key aspect of making change. Most people don't change behavior because they're given information. How many times have we told people to stop smoking or lose weight? Really, change happens when there's a crisis or people's emotions are raised. There are strategies to get people to change beliefs listed on the slide. Telling emotional stories, talking about the stories, a crisis or events that they've experienced and ways they could have been different, and then repeated skill building for true learning, comprehension, and understanding, making sure people have the tools to carry out the change. These things are included in that cognitive behavioral theory. We want people to be thinking, feeling, and then behaving. So a strategic plan is a roadmap with well-delineated goals, implementation strategies, or action tactics, outcomes, and timelines. Once we have a vision and belief well established, the next essential element is this well-defined strategic plan. Part of the strategic planning process would be to accomplish the SCOT analysis and the SCOT. So assess and identify system strengths that will facilitate the success of a new project. You want to assess and identify challenges that would hinder an initiative, outline opportunities for success, and then delineate the threats to project completion, and then have strategies to overcome them. I know we've talked about SMART goals, but we use these for a reason. A well-formulated strategic plan is necessary with strategies to overcome potential barriers. And so when making this plan, consider creating SMART goals. If you can make things specific, measurable, applicable, relevant, and time-bound, you're more likely to stick to them. I think it's important to have these goals in a place where everybody can visualize them as well, to be reminded of them, because then that way we can hold ourselves accountable and know exactly where we're going. Additional elements are those things we've talked about before as well: agility, action, persistence, and patience. Agile organizations innovate and are nimble in every function. Anytime there's a culture of that's the way we do it here, there will be delays. Action is important for maintaining momentum, and projects tend to be terminated early because of lack of persistence or patience, coupled with faulty execution, especially when challenges are encountered or results are difficult to see. And that's why using a change model is really important for moving organizations forward. Now we're going to talk about some of the actual change models. The first one is Duck's change curve model. This is on page 432 of your textbook. This model was published in the early 2000s, but still applies today. This model emphasizes basic assumptions for change and the stages of organizational change with potential areas of failure. This model assumes that change is a highly emotional process, and says that anytime we're going to change a group or an organization, it's going to require each individual within that organization to make a change as well. This model says that you have to have strong and nimble leadership. First, the leader has to be willing to change before the others do, and also has to be a strong leader who can lead the organization to change. This model also assumes that the bigger the change, the more difficulties you're likely to encounter, and the increased number of people needing to change will equate to a harder change process. So if you're working in on a small project, I think that would be a good place to start. I really like this picture of that, the duck change curve, because it really does show you what happens in each of the stages. In stage 1, stagnation, usually there's a lack of effective leadership. Maybe there have been failed initiatives and too few resources. There's an emotional climate when people feel comfortable. There's no threat. There's no reason to change. Depression can occur though, and or hyperactivity exists, and then individuals become stressed and exhausted. This stage doesn't end until action is actually taken. So in stage 2 is preparation. The emotional climate here is anxiety, hopefulness, and or reduced productivity. You have to get buy-in here, where people can identify what they are willing to do to change. Opportunity that exists at this stage is getting people excited about the vision. The danger here in the preparation stage is the length of time it's going to take you. It can't be too short and it can't be too long. Stage 3 is the implementation. You need to assess individuals' readiness for change as well as increase their confidence in their ability to make it happen. People need to see what's in it for them if they're going to commit to the change. And then if emotion is attached, people are more likely to change here. Stage 4 is determination. If results aren't happening, individuals will begin to experience change fatigue. And you'll see on this picture, there's a bomb that says crisis. The opportunity here is to create small successes, as this is the stage in which an initiative has the highest chance of failure. And then stage 5 is fruition. Efforts are coming to fruition and positive outcomes can be seen. And there's a little sun rising in the picture. The opportunity in this stage is to celebrate and reward individuals for their efforts, as well as seek new ways to change and grow. The danger here is if individuals revert to a level of complacency and begin to stagnate again. So you can see that we know how change will happen, and it's just anticipating these highs and lows in any change that will help us to be effective in making change happen. Cotter and Cohen's model of change proposes that the key to organizational change lies in helping people to feel differently, just like many of the other change models that we're going to be talking about. So Cotter and Cohen really say we need to appeal to people's emotions. They assert that individuals change their behaviors less when they're given facts or analysis, research, than when they're shown evidence that influences their feelings. So when you want to make a change, you have to make those connections. Cotter and Cohen wrote a book, The Heart of Change, that outlines the 8 steps for successful organizational change, shown in this picture here. So there's 3 stages in their model with 8 steps. Step 1 is creating a sense of urgency. It's helpful when organizations or individuals have been in a rut. Why do we need to change? Step 2 is forming a team. Members of the team need to possess knowledge, skills, respect, and trust with others, as well as be committed to the project. And these team members need to model enthusiasm. You should look for leaders at all levels, so not just formal leaders, but informal leaders within the group you're trying to change to. Step 3 is a vision and a strategy. Have you heard that before? You need to create these and do it in a reasonable time frame so that people don't get stuck and revert back. Step 4 is communicating the vision, and this should be done with heartfelt messages that appeal to emotions. Really being able to tell those stories, having people that matter to them, people that they trust, tell those stories. And in this stage, repetition is key so that people have a very clear understanding of what the problems and the new processes could be. Step 5 is empowerment. People need to be given power to change their behaviors. So this means they might need tools, resources, education. Additionally, you need to remove barriers or people will become frustrated and change will be undermined. Step 6 is interim successes, where you establish short-term wins to prevent frustration or faltering. Step 7 is ongoing persistence. And this really is slow and steady wins the race. Being able to persist through that time where you can see little bits of good happening, but you haven't got to the end yet. It's important to really play up those little bits of positive. And then step 8 is nourishment. Once you get to the final outcome, you need to nourish the new culture to ensure that it lasts, even if you have transitions in leadership or team members. The next change theory we'll look at is Rogers' diffusion of innovation. This theory was created in 2003, and essentially it's based on the bell-shaped curve used to describe the rate of adoption of fresh innovations by individuals. This model says that there's 5 groups of people across the curve. This model assumes or states that you need to have approximately 15 to 20% of people adopting the innovation for change to occur. So that means you need to have the innovators, early adopters, and early majority on board before moving forward. So the innovators are 2.5% of people usually. These are your out of the box kind of thinkers, and they readily recognize innovative opportunities. These are the people who don't sleep or who just have general enthusiasm about the work that they do. Early adopters is usually 13.5% of people. These people are also called their opinion leaders. They're highly influential and they encourage others to adopt innovations. The early majority is the first half of the middle curve, and it's about 34% of people. These people generally follow the lead of early adopters in implementing an innovation. The late majority, the second half of that middle curve, is again 34%. And these people watch how the innovation is progressing and they're more cautious in the adoption. This is where things can go well or go poorly. And finally, laggards are about 16% of the people. These are people steeped in tradition who have difficulty with change. And it isn't just people who are older, anybody who has difficulty with change. These people will eventually adopt the innovation, but it's not until it becomes standard practice. So leaders embarking on change need to expect this pattern of people movement in order to avoid frustration and premature quitting. If you use this change theory, it's important to target those early adopters because those people can help move change forward. If you can create a vision and get momentum going with the people on the left-hand side of that bell curve, you're going to move change forward more quickly. The other interesting thing about this model is it says don't focus on the late majority or the laggards. Those people, focusing on them will just cause frustration and stopping the project because of that frustration. You really want to target those willing to move. So finding out who those people are and targeting them is important if you're using this model. And now the trans-theoretical model of health behavior. This model was originally conceptualized to explain the process of change in health behaviors, but it has also now been applied to organizational change. When we talked about motivational interviewing, this is the model that people work from when utilizing that kind of motivational interviewing. So this model has the stages listed in the circle, and it says that you can exit and re-enter at any time. But essentially, this gives like time frames and people's willingness to change. So in the pre-contemplation, people are maybe introduced to the idea, but there's no intention to change within 6 months. So maybe, you have a presentation or something at a meeting. In the contemplation phase, people intend to take action in the next 6 months. In the preparation, there's plans to take action in the next 30 days. In action, an overt change is made, and it's made less than 6 months ago. And then in maintenance, changes are made more than 6 months ago. So this model says that approximately 40% of a specific population are always in the pre-contemplation or contemplative stages, and 20% are in the preparation phase. So there are strategies to overcoming barriers when implementing evidence-based practice or making a change in an organization. It's important that people are allowed to express skepticism, fears, and anxieties. so that you can clarify misconceptions or untruths. Educating clinicians about the thing in a way that appeals to their emotions and enhances their beliefs is really important. Additionally, knowing the personality types of individuals involved is another really good way to overcome barriers. I know you guys learned your color, so you know that a red can move things forward, but a red isn't gonna get people on board with them, right? And I know this because I'm a red. So I need a blue, somebody who can relate to people and can encourage them to join me. In your textbook, it talks about the disc personality, and those are really interesting personalities too. But knowing who people are and where they would be in this change process is important. Again, producing a written strategic plan, sharing it, making sure people are clear on it, as well as having everybody on board with those SMART goals, where you're going with the project. Talking about the plan clearly and often using different methods is important. Acknowledging that the team building process is dynamic and requires creativity and flexibility. Matching your organizational resources and administrative support closely. Enlisting leaders and managers early in the change, and then creating a critical mass of those early adopters within leadership and at the ground level in order to sustain change. So understanding change models really can help you know what to expect in each stage of making change, implementing a project. Continue to remind yourself of that. And then knowing the stages of change and being able to respond to them will help change be a success. Change isn't easy, but with persistence, change can be successful.